Hello, I'm Henry Bluefield and welcome to Benevolent Business. Firstly, if you of course could make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment below, leave a review, just leave something, get in touch. It's the best way in which I can communicate with you and hear your thoughts, get your feelings from it, and it's just the best way to build a little bit of a connection there to see who the listeners are out there. And I appreciate you spending the time with me on this conversation.
Out of fear, thought if two women pregnant at the same time, everyone's going to think, oh, they're on maternity at the same time, which means they're not able to work. And I knew that was never going to be the case. Always been hardworking. I always knew the business would carry on. And a lot of people, especially at Dragon Co-working where I work, saw me, knew I was pregnant and saw the growing bump and said, you've got nothing to worry about. And I just thought, no one's going to recommend me, no one's going to want to work with me, because there's this looming almost deadline in the sense of you're going to have this baby soon. It absolutely engrossed me with fear. And to some degree, I was right to think that. I was going to recommend you to a business, but obviously you're going to have the baby in a few weeks. And I thought, well, don't bloody do that. I'm still working.
Buying a house, having children, all while trying to run a business. A team of 3, and so that's 60% of the workforce.
Out.
And this one in particular is the final episode of Series 2 of Benevolent Business. So that's very exciting. We're coming to the end of Series 2. But panic not, there will be Series 3 coming very soon. But also what I'm going to be doing in the interim in between that is dissecting some of the old conversations I've had, revisiting them and putting out little bite-sized snippets of really key valuable pieces there that we can take and learn from the guests of the series so far. But that will be up and coming. This week we've got Molly Wright of MollyMoodle Media. This is a wonderful conversation where we go through really the key here. One thing I wanted to sort of dive into with Molly is managing a business, running a business while going through maternity, or like having maternity leave or not having maternity leave. I think there's a huge thing around people at the moment, or not at the moment, just there's this huge anticipation and a lot of unknowns in, I suppose, especially for women. Like if you want to get into business, you want to be a founder, a business owner, build a company, but sort of the best years to do that is also the best years of your life, to quote, but also the time when you are probably thinking about family and such. So how do you do it? Can it be done? Can you balance those things? And Molly is living proof of that. You can balance building a business while building a family and doing those things in amalgam with each other. And this is something that's like really astonishing, and seeing like the biggest challenges that come in business and the biggest challenges that come in parenthood, but being able to do them simultaneously is just mind-boggling and mind-blowing. So get stuck into this conversation, even if you're not someone that's looking to have children, or even if you're not like a potential mother. It will be hugely valuable, especially in terms of like managing your time, managing client expectations, and being able to communicate well with clients, like especially going through the whole pregnancy journey and not wanting to tell clients about it. The nerves around, will you be dropped? Will your clients start to leave because of this issue that they've decided it is? That, oh, you won't be able to commit your time, we're not going to be the priority anymore. How do you overcome that? How do you handle that? And regardless, there will be many things in business we encounter where that is an issue, not through pregnancy, but through something else. So it's a wonderful thing to get from there. So let's get stuck straight in with this conversation with Molly. Molly, welcome to Benevolent Business. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This is the coolest thing, sitting in this first time I've been in like some form of studio.
Yes.
To paint the visual, if you're listening to this right now, listener, rather than watching on YouTube, this is just a room with a bunch of, it looks like egg packaging foam.
Yes.
And the strangest thing is just when we walked in here, like your ears are just
It's like the air disappears from your ears.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. It's like you're talking underwater. And Roland, who owns Dragon Co-working, whose space this is, he warned that, and I just thought, oh, okay. And it's true. It's just sound has disappeared.
Yeah,
and I feel like I want to be James Blunt and record an album in here. There's just the inspiration is pouring out of me.
I'm really cute. I'd love to try meditating in here. It must be really strange to be in complete silence.
See, that's the difference with us there. You meditate. I just want to burst into song.
Yeah, there's two very different characters. So, first of all, one thing that's very new for you that you've shared with the world is now being a new mother, becoming a mother. So,
I am a mummy.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You didn't share the news, or rather, so you put a post up recently. Obviously, you're very active on social media, given especially what you're doing. That kind of goes hand in hand. But just reading that post recently, you said about like you didn't share this. A lot of clients didn't know. I think the answer to that is obvious in terms of, I'd imagine there was a lot of fear there of, if I tell people I'm pregnant, suddenly there's people are going to start dropping us. People aren't going to want to be our clients because, like, how much attention are you going to give to the service? Was that true, or is there other reasons? And how did your clients actually respond when they found out?
So that was it was that. So I didn't intend to not tell anyone. Georgie was pregnant, who works for me, same time I fell pregnant. So I was trying for a baby during lockdown. I'm the biggest lockdown cliche. So during lockdown, we bought a house and renovated it. We then got a dog, and I got pregnant and had a baby. So I'm ticking all those cliche boxes. But we tried for a year to have the baby, and it just never happened. And that's a really sad process for anyone who's gone through it, when you think that it's never going to happen. So I just sort of said, okay, no problem, we'll get the dog, a German Shepherd of all dogs.
Oh, wow.
And because you think if you can't have children, you might as well have a dog that's like, your dream dog. Yeah. But I did. I think it was for the arrival of the dog that encouraged the baby. Well, Georgie was pregnant at the same time. Now, bear in mind, it's a team of me, Georgie and Chloe. So when Georgie told me, 2 out of 3 of us were pregnant, and I just, out of fear, thought if 2 women pregnant at the same time, everyone's going to think, oh, they're on maternity at the same time, which means they're not able to work, which means that... And I knew that was never going to be the case. I've always been hardworking. I always knew the business would carry on. And a lot of people, especially at Dragon Co-working where I work, saw me, knew I was pregnant, and saw the growing bump and said, you've got nothing to worry about. And I just thought, no one's going to recommend me, no one's going to want to work with me, because there's this looming almost deadline in the sense of you're going to have this baby soon. And it absolutely engrossed me with fear. And to some degree, I was right to think that. And throughout the pregnancy, I yo-yoed between, do I announce it, do I not? And just as I was going to say, I'm going to announce it, someone would, something would come along where they'd go, oh, I heard you're pregnant, and I'll get back to you later on. And I thought, no. The real thing to that was my friend said to me, I was going to recommend you to a business, but obviously you're going to have the baby in a few weeks or a few months. And I thought, well, don't bloody do that. I'm still working. So it was totally out of fear, the stigma. And what people didn't realise was my fiance was on paternity. I worked, never had a maternity, but I did. You make it work. I can't exclusively say I didn't have a maternity leave. I still had to be with her, and which I absolutely love. But it is a challenge, and that was why. And I think it was part stigma. It was part my own anxiety, and just really trying to continue to grow, sustain, and scale the business out of COVID as well, and then this double pregnancy. Which is joyous and happy in our personal life, but in a business life, it was a little bit daunting.
God, that's all at once. You're having COVID, buying a house, having children, all while trying to run a business.
Well, COVID was a bloody nightmare. Take away, scaling the business as it is, and then you put lockdown and everything else in there. That was already a storm to get through. And not that our pregnancies were a storm, but it was a situation of where do we stand? It was all very new to me, and there was also the feminist in me was actually very angry and thought, no, be loud and proud. And it's only until I got out on the other side, the baby's 6 months, the business is thriving, and everyone's, it's all going really nicely, that you think, why, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have stayed quiet. So hopefully that adds some context into that post and sort of announcing the pregnancy 6 months after she was born.
So you're a team of 3, and so that's 60% of the workforce.
Out. Well, it wasn't out. I was still very much there. Georgie was on maternity leave. So it was me and Chloe, and we worked serious hours, and you have to make it work around. But the priority for me is the baby, and that she's happy, and that even though technically, especially newborn stage, they don't have a clue. I didn't want to set bad habits from the beginning. I always wanted to make sure that she was the priority. She was looked after. I wasn't breastfeeding, looking at my phone and checking emails and stuff. It's her time. So it's just finding that balance and catching hours in between the moments where you can, essentially.
Okay, so how would your day-to-day work then in terms of, I suppose, I mean, I'm not a woman, so but I'm trying to think, for anyone listening that's going to go through the phase of having a child, having a business, or wants to start a business but wants to have children, and really trying to understand this battle of how will I manage it all, what did your day-to-day look like when you were pregnant? Could you still achieve everything you need to achieve in work? But then when you had the baby, what did your day-to-day look like, especially as well having a team member on maternity leave? So can you paint a picture of what those days looked like?
Funny enough, when I was pregnant, I was still working up until I had a lovely pregnancy, really, really lovely. I even worked at an event at 8 months pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. Yeah, so like Poppy's just like chilling in there, and I was like bending down, taking pictures. You know, everyone's different in their pregnancies. You might have one woman who's like, I'm absolutely knackered at 32 weeks, or you might have another woman who's like, I'm buzzing to go, you know. And I had mix of both those days. So you don't know how you're going to be in pregnancy until you're in it. So I was very active pretty much until the end, and then I started getting really tired and stuff. When she was finally here, and thing is with a newborn, they don't necessarily do much. They eat, they sleep, you change their bum, but every 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you don't realise how quick those 2 hours come around until you're in that moment. And I'm not talking until 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's 8 a.m. till 8 a.m. It's 2 hours.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would work around the hours Poppy, you know, like work around her during the day, which would be quite disruptive because she would, well, no, it didn't really make that much difference. And then I would have dinner, chill out in the evening, and then probably work from 10 a.m. to like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. And sometimes I'd even do stints of like 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. because they're the most times where no one's calling, no one's disrupting, and you can just sort of crack on. So I've always worked well in the night, and because of the fact I was already waking up during the night feeds because I was breastfeeding her, lucky Git, my fiance, isn't he? That he got off that. That I was able to. It didn't bother me staying up that late.
Wow, I'm just trying to think, like, just in my mind, a mother, even just like the most simplified. I say simplified; it's never simplified with having children, but just. If a mother takes maternity leave and has still got a partner at home, just having a baby then and having to, like, as you said, every 2 hours, that is a mission in itself and like a huge accomplishment. Hopefully, if someone's listening, it's sort of, and if you are someone that's debating having children and want to have a business and want to be able to find that balance, hopefully you've answered it well. But I'm just like sitting here just thinking, how did you not get burnout? How did you not have to just like stick cocktail sticks in your eyes to stay awake and just...
But it's because you're partly that you don't have a choice, partly because you have to keep the engine running. And I don't recommend it to some degree. I actually think that I do and I don't. It depends what you want, and every single person is different. So someone might listen to my story and go, oh my goodness, I tried to work and I couldn't work, it was too much. Or every baby's different, every scenario's different. So for me, in my scenario, I worked so hard to get the business to the point it is 7 years down the line. And I am the manager, I'm the director, I manage the team, I'm the one that is the vocal for everything. So, you know, when a baby comes along, it's a little bit like, well, for even me as a person, I couldn't stop it. I couldn't just hand it over to Chloe. I couldn't, you know, I handed over responsibility. She'd done a lot. We both worked hard. But ultimately, for me, I'm the one that made the plan with the client. I'm the one that signed, you know, we've got an agreement together. It's hard for me to stop. So that part of me was going anyway, and then partly the baby's got to be fed. My fiance had paternity leave, so he was around. So, you know, if there was times where I was on a Zoom call or something was going on, he looked after her. He took her out. He's fantastic. He literally was like, in the first week or two, we got a little baby carrier, and I was like, I'm just in a meeting. I'm gonna be, you know, because I had to just do like check-in calls and stuff just to make sure everything was flowing. And he'd have her in the harness with the dog and be like, see you in a bit, and I'm like, oh, gotcha. So it's a really happy time, really intense time, but it really does depend on what you want and how you want to live. But for me, in my life in general, you always got to push for the happiness. And sometimes, even if the day-to-day it's stressful because you're trying to achieve something, either go for the happy dream or, you know, and go to where you want to end up, or find the happiness in every day. And if the happiness in every day is being you, not having stress, enjoying that newborn bubble and not having... I'm all for it. I'm really all for it. Do you see what I mean?
Listening to that, there's a question I want to ask that I've listened to... A few podcasts I've listened to have asked this question, and it's something that can get very interesting and very polarising responses from people. And I can edit it out if you want me to, but otherwise...
I love it.
Are you happy then?
I'm really happy. I'm really happy, and I'm happy because I worked bloody hard for this. In the early days, I used to get, oh God, do you know what? I think being about 21, 22, 24, really stressful ages. All your parents and all your friends, oh, you're in your prime, live it up, live it up. I think it was one of the most stressful times. I think it's that, in my early 20s, I started up the business when I was 22. And, by 24, 25, I was very deep into it with not much result. Does that make sense? Like, I was putting a lot of hours in, but charging very low to get my exposure out there, going to networking events, working for free, doing a lot of stuff. And it was really stressful, and I would really self-doubt myself, and I'd think, you ain't capable of this, you can't pull this off. And I thought, well, you're too deep in now, you've told everyone, MollyMoodle Media, it's a thing, and, but that darkness, I would say, would seep into other areas, and I'd say, Tom's amazing, you don't deserve him. And I'd be like, what? Where's this going? I'd talk to my sister, and she'd go, you need to stop that. Yeah. So I think that I taught myself to look at myself in a really positive way and go, actually, do you know, listen, you turn up 10 minutes late to your friends' birthday parties. You always get birthday cards late. You are terrible for this, but actually you're a good person in that. And I sort of had to weigh myself up and go, what are my pros, what are my negatives, and what do I want out of life? I see a lot of people, and bear in mind, kudos if you want to go to Dubai or you want to go to Australia and you want to live, travel. But there's this expectancy like, I didn't travel. Did I miss out? Oh, And I think, what makes me happy? What genuinely? Very, very blessed with a very nutty but brilliant family, really great friends. I absolutely love history. I read a lot about history, watch documentaries. I can tell you anything from William the Conqueror all the way up to Elizabeth II. Kings and Queens is my thing. And one of my things that I love is a day out in London, looking at the sights and stuff. And I'm very content in my home life. I don't seek for wild dreams. I'm very happy in that sense. So even on the hard days when I'm grinding for the future, it's all in jest. It's all in good. I see the positives in it.
Okay, you mentioned there about when you started MollyMoodle Media. That I love how that rolls off the tongue. So when you started your business, and it was like a slug for years of work and not really seeing the results, and imposter syndrome creeping in, feeling like, well, now looking back, like charging like next to nothing to try and get your foot in the door and such. How long would you say that lasted? Because I think when I started my business, very quickly I managed to start generating revenue and start getting busy and managed to kind of... Well, to me, like a $5 was a lot of money when I started my business, so I guess I felt like I had money very quickly in some regards, but in other ways not. But now, like, I've stepped away a lot from my business, and I'm on like running a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, all these different things, and it's back at square one. But same thing, I've made more than 100 videos for YouTube and never made a penny. How long? Talk to me about your experience there of like years of working at this business and not really seeing that financial reward for it, and how did you keep going? Like, how was it something you had to battle with yourself constantly, or was you just flowing?
So this is something that I recently reflected on, maybe about a year ago or so, and it's really important actually because it impacts my future, funnily enough. So I decided to start my own social media services because prior to starting, I worked at a social media agency in London, and I thought, there's businesses in Kent that can really benefit off this, and I can run my own social media services. Yeah. So that's how MollyMoodle Media started. But I didn't start with any money. I didn't start with no business experience. I did no research into business because I was stubborn. I thought, I'm not good enough to do it. I won't look. It was silly, really. So I winged it badly. So no, it wasn't badly actually. I winged it really well, to be fair. I sort of threw myself into the deep end with networking and meeting new people. And what dawned on me, it just felt really hard because, as you said, you've started up your business and you got profit very quickly. Whereas I wouldn't say I had that. Like, for example, maybe after my first year, I was earning about £1,000 a month, which I don't think is actually that bad. However, I wanted to scale, grow, get bigger. And unfortunately, I have. But I think there's something to say about the industry that I work in, because my brother-in-law is a plasterer, and I've got car mechanics. I've got people who work in beauty, and they hit the ground running. And I think that the reason why that is because they're established trades, and they're things that people know. Like, they don't need to explain what the service is. If I'm an electrician, I've started up my own electrical company, you're going to come around and fix my switchboard. You're going to come around and fix my lights. What is social media? What is social media management? What's a social media agency? What do you do? Who are you? Can I trust you with my money? So you expect me to invest in something I know nothing about, know no value for, and actually, why should I pay you to do it when my niece, my nephew, my son, my daughter can do it? So I find that it's part in place of, maybe it's the way that I went about business, but I also now am starting to realise, I think it's the trust factor with investing money into a social media agency with a person who, like I'm speaking more when I'm younger, who had no real industry experience apart from a media degree and 1 year in a social media agency. Whereas if you've got a web design agency who's found its feet, or an ad specialist who provides social, there's a trust element in that because they've clearly shown their expertise in an established skill set digitally, but with social. And I'm talking more not London based, not all your London agencies and anyone in that circle, they get it. I'm talking more Kent rural businesses that have been going for 20, 30, 40 years and who are not afraid to go, I had the word there, it was resistant to go digital. That's who I love to work with, ironically, but that's who, because that's who I like to help.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason why I find it hard to scale, because to get their trust and their willingness to invest. But over the years with experience and growing and scaling, that name and those case studies are out there for them to go, actually, she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, because when I think back to timelines, because you said there one thing about social media, an agency, paying people to do that. You're saying like it seems so alien and people aren't familiar with it. Whereas now, I feel like in 2022, it's like, well, that's what it says on tin and people have a good understanding. Or I suppose there's a few dinosaurs that wouldn't. But then I'm like, when you started your business, it was 2012 or whatever. I'm trying to like remember what the world looked like then.
Do you know what? No, do you know what it was like? There was, especially in Kent, a lot of people would know ZC social media. She was very much established there. And so when I went on a networking scene, Zoe actually worked at Dragon Co-working for a while. And, I would go to networking and I'd say I work in social media. And they'd say, oh, Zoe has done it. But Zoe actually was the one almost paving the way. She was the one that really caught the brunt of it, of people saying, what's that? And social media, we were all running our phones on social media. I've got posts and throwbacks now, time hops. Currently of me in university, cringe trolley, I'm having a good time, like someone pushing me down the road or something. We were on social media, but you take that so this is the difference, is that you bring that into a business, and you bring that into a business that's never scaled using social media, and they've got methods to scaling that have never been included, and that's now become a cost. But we have this situation where, they know they need to be on it, but their business never isn't impacted or by not being on it. Does that make sense? So it's this catch-22 where they're a little bit like, I want to be on it, but I want it to be done well because I gave it to my son, and now he's too busy and he doesn't care. So should I pay you? And then I've come into the room, and then I've had it where people go to me, you tell me, why should I use you? And I say to them, don't use me. If that's how you feel, if you feel like, this is my job, this is what I do, these are what I can offer you, and if that's a bit of you, then let's get started. But if it's not, don't worry about it. And so, do you see what I mean by that? It's everyone understands social media, how important it is. Businesses, and now, especially post-lockdown, everyone realises that everyone was on their phones. A lot of what I don't like to call me dinosaurs, but a lot of the dinosaurs, which they bloody are, because my dad's one of them and he's a pain, and they are now going to me, yeah, we need to do this, but that nervousness and that resistance is still there. And quite rightly, it's all new to them. If some young person said to me, you need to be on Metaverse and I'm going to design you a whole new world and it's nothing that you're aware of, I'd be like, what? So it will happen to me one day. So I understand that. So I think the human side of me and the trust factor and making them feel comfortable is probably is a nice factor of MollyMoodle Media. I will try and answer short. I'm so sorry. I do like it.
Literally, my job is to try and say as few words as possible so you can say the most words as possible. Got an understanding there. And you went through the years of, as you said, like working your butt off and not seeing the financial rewards and like all this networking. So eventually you've got to a point where you are busy, financially must be a bit stronger. So therefore you've started to expand and like take on a team. To which... one thing I'd love to go into is just working with family. So your sister works for you.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think it's a huge debate, and like as an entrepreneur having a business, like should you work with family, should you not? How do you find that balance? I've never done it, and it's only something recently. Like you touched on like happiness and trying to find like in terms of your own intrinsic fulfillment, what does that take? And for me now, I'm looking at the next avenues I want to go down, and I want it to be with people that are in my circle, whether that's my friends, my family. Like if I expand my podcast, I want to be working with someone that I'm going to be great friends with, and I want to like start investing in property. I want to do it with my family, so then we're all coming up together and all exploring this together, and it involves working with people that like you like and you get along with. So for you, how is it working with family in terms of, because first answer that of like, how do you find a balance, and is it a case of clocking off and saying, right, okay, we're done with work now, we're back to being sisters, or is it, because I spoke to her about it on your waffle event the other day, and
Did you?
yeah, I was asking about it, of like, she did mention that it can be like whatever time in the evening trying to chill out, and suddenly you come in like, I've got this idea, let's brainstorm, and it's like, Molly, piss off. Like.
Yeah, that's it. That's so true. It's absolutely true. So the decision for Georgie to work with me was not something out of a business decision. It was a sister decision. It was a life decision. It was a personal thing, because prior to Georgie working with me, I already had a really lovely girl called Katie working with me. She was a fantastic marketer. That's what she wanted to do. Prior to that, I've had another marketer. So everyone that I ever hired either had an interest in marketing or had experience in it. And Georgie didn't, apart from a bloody media. Well, she did media at GCSE, and we always make a joke about this Lady Gaga poster she had to design as part of her assignment, which was actually not bad. So essentially what happened was Georgie had decided to move to London, work in London, and obviously I was running the business in Kent. She then said, I'm done with that now, I want to come home, but I don't have a job. And so I said, well, Katie's just left, because she pursued her, funny enough, her like passion project, which was to run her own tea room. She was given the opportunity, so she was like, Molly, what can I do? She even told me in small talk in the office that was her dream. One of those things like later on down the line, but it just the opportunity come to her then. So I needed someone to step in pretty quickly. Now I've got 3 sisters, so Georgie, Carrie-Anne, and Jolie, and me and Georgie being the 2 youngest, we're the 4. I'm the 3rd, she's the 4th, and we've always naturally really got on because we're the younger 2. However, I also drive her mad. I'm very aware of that. Yeah, I do. I annoy her. I can see that coming. She does. She thinks I get under her skin. But when it comes to business, I thought, can I trust her? Is she reliable? Is she? And when you look at her in her life, she is. Don't get me wrong, she's a whinger at times. My God, she's dramatic as hell. But she's reliable, she's organised, she's a good person. So it made that decision easier. In terms of running the business as with a sister, I think in the 3 or 4 years we've been working together, we've had 3 clashes where, we've totally just not liked each other. But it's lasted an afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, you listening? Well, what? Don't you talk to me? Don't you talk to me? Like, but very sort of silly stuff, nothing deep, and nothing ever is ever deep. But she did say to me, she said, I'm very in the early days as well, and sort of mid-halfway I'd be very intense. I've got ideas, and I've got to talk about them. And funny enough, that part of me still comes up now. It comes to Saturday. I've got this idea, what we need to do. And she says, Molly, I'm with you at work all day. I'm in the evenings now. Let me chill out a bit. Save it for Monday when I'm in work mode. Right now, I'm sitting here, I'm watching telly, and you've bowled in here with your ideas. Calm down. So she said that to me, and I took that on board. And so when I was at my dad's last weekend, I was like, and I could feel her looking at me going, excuse me, you all right over there? And I go, yeah, I'm all right. Good. Keep it that way. So she was a good egg to start with, and but she let me know her boundaries and barriers and stuff, and her boundaries, not her barriers, and it works now. Yeah, if there's really something I talk about, it'll seep into conversation. But we've got a very home life now. Yeah, a good home life.
I'll have to take note from how you control that, because that's not something that I do. If I've got an idea, whoever's around me will hear about it for the next hour.
Oh, but this is it. This is like you're a bit younger than me. I'm sort of approaching 30, and I think that I've exhausted everyone. I think maybe that sounds really negative to say, actually. But what I mean is that, like, tell everyone your ideas, and if people are open to listen to them, let them. I think that I was quite intense for a really long time. in my anxiety, in my stress, in my ideas, in my passions, in everything. And I think some people were like, for them, taking that on was quite overwhelming sometimes. So now I have to calm myself down and then go, have a chat. Have a nice one. I go to my dad a lot. I go to Tom a lot. I go to Georgie during work hours. And I will go to friends when I really need it. My friends and family are really lovely and supportive. It means a lot. And there's been times where I find that I wasn't on the same level as my friends. They all had full-time jobs. They were all earning money. They were all going on nice holidays. And I was like, okay, I'm running 2 pennies together, because everything that I earned through the business went back out as an expense in the sense of a member of staff, working for someone for free, trying to get that exposure. So, I lived many years not taking a paycheck to invest in the bigger future. And that's quite a lonely, isolating experience. And not many people understood that. So when I felt stressed, I wanted to air that out to everyone, but they couldn't connect. And sometimes that connection is what I needed. And I felt a bit sorry for them because they couldn't help me. In the sense of going, you're all right, don't worry, you could say that, but there was nothing they could say that was going, if you do this, or if you do that, or just don't worry about it. It was quite hard. So for me, it was a sort of isolating time and stuff, but it is just about recentering myself and going, just take the cherry parts and actually, you're all right, reminding yourself, you're actually all right. Now carry on. So that made it feel better. I can't remember what the original question was, but hopefully that ties in there somehow.
So in your line of work, you do a lot of... You're very confident, very positive, very bubbly. You talk a lot.
I do, yeah.
You do. So I'm trying to understand the dynamic of you've got business owner, employee in the same family, grew up in the same household, I'm going to guess?
Yes.
So you grew up in the same household. So what are the distinctive characteristics and where did they evolve from for you to be the one that started the business, and then for your sister's Chloe? Georgie and Chloe. So your sister Georgie, what was different that then she became the employee? Not that there's I can imagine her life's a lot smoother and easier, but for you, what is it that incentivizes you to be like, I'm going to start this business, but yet you're the same household?
So me and my sisters are very different. Very, very different. We're very alike in personality, and I think part of the reason why I talk a lot is because I can't actually get a word in edgeways at home. 4 sisters, okay. We're all from the East End, we're all very, loud personalities. There's not one person in my family who's quiet. There isn't, and I mean it. Everyone's got a really big, outrageous personality. So I actually am quite watered down around my family. I'm very much the kids' entertainer, and I dance and I make them, So I am that, but I am... I'm not a big personality in my family. So I think that's part of the reason why I talk a lot, because I've got the airtime, I've got the room, and I think, oh my God, I've got so much more to say, I need to calm down a little bit. And also, why I think it's just different personalities. So Georgie's very good at the care industry. So Georgie's actually worked a lot. She was a midwife's assistant. She's worked with poorly children. She's worked in the old people's home and elderly people's home. That's a bit. I always try to say the right things. Maybe that's hopefully that's right. But she's got a very caring nature to her. However, Georgie's outlook in life is her personal life. Not to discriminate, not to demise her, these are probably all the wrong words, but not to go against her working life, because she's fantastic at it, or else I wouldn't give her the opportunity. I genuinely wouldn't. It has to work for it to work. Does that make sense? Yeah. But Georgie is her personal life and her day-to-day happiness is what's most important to her. So a job, really, she's happy to have a job, and to get enjoyment out of the job is a bonus, but she doesn't want to go and sit and run her own business and have the faff of it. She wants to go out with her mates and have fun. She wants to spend time with her baby. She wants to spend time with the family. Georgie is the one who will organise Jubilee weekend party. Every Halloween, Easter, Christmas, she does the personalised presents, and it's got to be, really special details. She's got a bloody stamp that she stamps with. One wax melt is a bunny ears, the next one's a bloody pumpkin, the other one's Father Christmas. So that's Georgie. Her personal life is very is quite intense for her, and she loves it, and she loves being happy. That's where her happiness is, and she enjoys working with me, for me, as a sister, helping her sister out, but she also enjoys the job and she's good at her job. So it's a good marriage.
So have you always had this confidence and this front to be able to speak?
Well, apparently when I was a kid, I actually didn't talk. didn't talk at all. Just my mum and dad used to take me to speech therapy lessons to try and encourage the talk out of me. And they always say, apparently I'm overcompensating now. In terms of confidence, yeah, I've always been a bit of a drama queen, I think I'd say. And it just flows. It's not. I'm not never putting anything on because I'd find that cringy if I did. It just comes out of me. So no, I think again it ties back to the family, and I think it's about making them laugh. And I am the clown. I'm the one that will put on a show for them and think I'm funny. And because it's sometimes not, it's even funnier.
So you've always been quite comfortable in terms of like speaking, like in a room, speaking to people and like clients having to jump at the opportunity of network meetings, just walking into a room of 50 people you don't know and suddenly being able to introduce yourself. You've always been comfortable.
Yeah. So when I was at school, I went to the 100 of Who school, and we used to have something called Who's Got Talent. So I'd be like the host of that show. Any sort of talent show, any sort of presenting, I would do it. And that's actually why I went to university, to pursue that too. I did Hospital Radio Medway, I did CRM-FM, I did, loads of presenting stuff. Funny enough, I still do presenting now as part of work. Scene magazine asked me to get involved and interview people for Canterbury Pride, and I interviewed loads of drag queens, got Kwan. It was one of the best days ever. Wow. So that's always been, but it's still always awkward. I'm very awkward. I'm like an extroverted introvert. So even before I go into a networking event, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then I just think, well, everyone, just imagine it, everyone's your friend, and just chat about life, and then it just flows.
Interesting. I like that extroverted introvert.
Yeah. And I say that because Georgie, for example, is an introverted extrovert. So she doesn't necessarily want to go into a room and have all eyes look at her. She'd hate that. But she'd be the first one to host a party and have all her mates around and everyone chatting away and hustle and bustle, and she'll be the last one at a party. Whereas I'm more than happy to address the room and take control of a room in the sense of, like if I'm presenting or if I need to direct people, it really wouldn't. I'm confident in that. But sometimes if I'm at a party or if I'm in like at a wedding, I don't know everyone, I'm like, oh, sorry if I did that come out of nowhere, that noise. But I do. I seize up a little bit, and I have to push myself to be confident. That's
interesting.
Like, do you know what my biggest fear is? Going to a car wash and getting my car washed and having that small interaction with the people. I've never done it because I get really nervous.
Really? Just that small. Just the car wash, or like just...
So I used to be really scared of like talking to the waiter and stuff like that, and ask if there was ever a complaint and stuff. Tom would always have to talk for me, literally. I'd tell him what I wanted to order because I'd be really nervous 1-to-1. But I just thought, you've got to get over that now.
Yeah, no, I get that because I've had that a lot, and although I've found now, since YouTube and podcasting, that kind of thing, and literally spending most of my time having conversations with people, I find it a lot easier to interact with people. And although one thing I do find is I've become a lot more comfortable at asking, I suppose, deep questions.
Yes.
Like, I see no point in just, I suppose my mind's escaping this, what's the narrative of like, how are you going? Like, how's your day? Yeah, good. Yeah, good. I'd much rather be like,
chip.
So,
yeah.
So what's the latest trauma you've dealt with, and how are you overcoming it? How has that worked for you? And what can I take from you, and what can I give you in return in like this exchange of like how we've both mentally grown or something? And
but that's what people want to know, and I think that's the things that when you're laying in bed at night and you're thinking, and especially if you're waved with self-doubt, that's people want to know that there is a way out of there, and you think people are experiencing the same thing. And I think for me, I have to be in tune with my mind and know who I am and work to who I am. So people say, you should get up at 5 a.m, you should work to this and that. And you have to figure out who you are and what works for you. So I had baby sleeps now, which is lovely. So I went to bed at like 9:30, and then I was twiddling my fingers because I'm usually working in the night. And I thought, is this worth it or not? And I'm still trying to figure that out. Is it the hustle and bustle and the madness and the chaos? Is it good for me or is it isn't? Because I do feel then about to burn out and think, I'm sick of this. Then I get the rest. I don't know. So I still, you have to figure out who you are and listen to your own body and your mind. And sometimes that will change all the time. So I like, learning from experiences.
Yeah, and like you saying about the whole laying in bed at 9:30, I went through the same thing of like having my company and like managing staff. It would just be, if I was awake, I was working. And if I wasn't working, I was thinking about what I needed to be working on.
Yes.
But then having a lifestyle now where I have a lot more free time and I can sort of enjoy things, that transition mentally was like so much to try and like grasp the concept of having free time, relaxing and being able to just kind of be present in moments, especially like, well, having hobbies of like yoga and meditation now, it's just like trying to train your mind. And I still have bursts, like recently I've had a lot with, I don't know if I'd call it anxiety, but like an anxious mindset of more things that have gone wrong or financial struggles and such, and as well, now that I think my lifestyle's a lot easier and simpler, is that little things can be so much bigger and more significant. Whereas when I was running a company, the idea of something bad happening was, it happens every day, I'm used to it. And so I think, as you said, a lot of it is just with your own mind and it's working out.
And I think that financial stress, me and my friend, she called it out once, and I was like, oh my God, it's so true. Financial stress is the worst stress. It's if you've got money and you're comfortable and you could just go out and do what you want, and you've got a lot on, you could be really stressed out. But if you've got a lot on and you've got no money, that is very, very stressful. And I sort of, when we had that chat, when me and Kelly had that chat, I sort of made peace with that in that moment and said, well, if you're having a tight month and you've got a lot going on, you're going to be stressed. Do you see what I mean? So you forgive yourself a little bit more. So, and that's what I mean. I'm a talker. I have to talk my emotions out and feelings out. So the more you learn yourself and think what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and don't put pressure on yourself to have this long-term routine. Routine is a good thing. I mean, I need routine for the baby and all sorts, but sometimes you've just got to listen to your body and don't make yourself do things if you don't actually want to do it, or do things and do it because you want to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And with that, and talking about do things you want to do, like having this conversation so far, I'm like hearing what you've done, and you mentioned about like this like presenting work you've done and like interviewing people, and part of me sitting here thinking like, obviously you do very well in running a social media company, but I'm like, why aren't you a presenter or a YouTuber? Or like, why not a bit of everything?
So that is sort of the plan. The plan was, I come out like deciding on a plan when I was about 22, and I said, what I'd love to do is to create an agency where, it runs itself, and then I can go off and do my own thing. And I think that, if I'm being honest, I needed to almost get to a point where I was in control, because I feel like in my youth, or like, oh my God, I was the most boring person ever, by the way. Like, that sounds like I was like, I had this problem. No, I used to drink 4 WKD Blues and literally be like so drunk. So I don't mean it in that sense. I mean more in like my confidence and in terms of how I saw myself and where I saw myself going. So I think that if I do things with confidence now, because I'm very aware of who I am, and I like who I am, and I'm able to read the room, I'm able to read a person, and that maturity will make things better for me in the future. And that's through the experience of the business. So naturally, that's a good thing. But I just wanted to have an agency that had its legs and then sort of go into it. So that's that in the future. So, watch this space. I'll invite you to my podcast. We'll see. But that is part of the plan, really.
Oh, amazing. So on the subject of socials, and I feel like I need to ask the question given you run a social media company. So can you hit me with some crucial fundamentals if a business or an individual is trying to grow a presence on social? What are I never like putting a number to this. Like, people would say, what's your top 3 tips? But you might just have a top 1 or a top 5, or you might have a top 27 tips.
What do you think? What's got top 27? No, I'm joking. No, I will be quick because I know what I'm like. Number 1, one of the things that you need to be doing as a business is consistently posting. And I think sometimes when you think about marketing your business, you think about it in a sense of, I need to do this, this big campaign, and it's going to cost me loads of money. And you get so pent up and wound up that, it's such a job and you're already busy, you drop it and nothing goes out. Social media is a place where we all go, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, to relax, to chill. What's going on in the world, who's doing what. We're all voyeurs in the sense of watching everyone's day-to-day life. So tell your story. Just snap a picture in the moment, tell people what you're up to, and that is actually the biggest strength you can have on social media. You work in a construction company and you've got a big development, a big shipment of something. Take a picture of the shipment, because that is actually telling a bigger story, which is we're developing something which is going to be big in the future, which you're promoting a project even. So take a picture of your day-to-day life and share it on social media. I will just say, some people confuse it of, I've got to share a picture of like my dinners, or I've got to share that as like my kids, so I've got to show a picture of my dog. No. You make your life as personal as you want, but actually use the strengths of social media to tell the stories you do want to tell. That's tip number 1. Number 2 is business is done by people. It's never changed since I always say, if it's like Jesus or, whatever religion you believe in, was walking around in his sandals, old Jesus boy. He was, they all had stalls out. And that person at stall might be selling blankets, that stall might be selling shoes. Now, they all went, David sells blankets, Bill sells shoes. That's how we do business now. My boiler breaks down tomorrow. I mean, I'd ring up the bloke who fixed it. But if let's say, a new boiler and my I'm making this too personal. God, just stop complicating it. I'm thinking, no, I'd never disown Brent. Brent was fantastic. So I don't think like that. Right, if I wanted to have a new bath put in, before I jump straight on Google, if I need a new plumber, I would ask anyone, who do you know is a really good plumber? That's my first point of call. So as a business owner, you need to make sure that you're talking to everyone and get that brand awareness and show people that you know what you know. Third tip, I would say, find out what your strengths actually are. Look at the analytics. We all think we've got these great ideas. It's only until your concept's gone live, then you can review the data where you can see, actually, I thought my video of me shaking my booty would do really well, but it's actually the post about 5 top tips on how to do this. So review the data and see what works for you as well. How was that? Was that okay?
No, that was good.
That was really I tried to be.
I think the point one was kind of two things, because you said about consistency and then you said tell your story, but.
That's true, yeah. Double
very
whammy.
Important. Yeah, but equally very important. One, like the thing that I always say with social media, not that I'm in a place of authority to say, but like long-term consistency, which I wrote here, long-term consistency in my notes. And to me, that's one of the most important things. And it's like you starting on, it's not even square one, starting at square zero on social media. And it's like, right, 0 followers, I'm going to make a YouTube channel with it. It is just long-term consistency. And if you make... I'm going to say 100 videos, but that's not even enough. Like, you can make 100 videos and still no one will care. Yeah. You got to make hundreds.
What you want to do as well is you want to, whatever opportunity falls on your lap, and I learned this extremely hard with COVID, is whoever you've got in front of you, in your space, whatever opportunities you've got, absolutely milk it. And don't be shy. And you think to yourself, in the best case scenario, what do I want out of this? So I want them to share that post. I want to do a picture with that. I want to do this. Then do it all and get your reach out there with that person. Absolutely, and then maybe even use that picture or use that link to send to other people who are similar and say, I spoke to this person. I'd love to speak to you, or and use that in a social media sense where you collaborate and communicate with other people. Thing is, deep down, everyone's narcissist. Everyone loves it when someone pays them a compliment or says something nice, and that's the charm that you work on social media. If you put yourself out there on social media and communicate and say you're great, you're amazing, and you support other people's stuff, they'll then come around and look at you and see what you're doing. Do you see what I mean? That's why you got to play to the strengths of social media. But every opportunity you get, absolutely milk it and try and find as many ways as possible to onboard other people on that process to get your reach out there further.
I think that's kind of answered my next question there, because I was going to say, I'm going to ask you as the social media expert, and that's like me trying to build I love podcasting because I can just speak to people that are experts in fields I want to know more about and then just be like, can I get loads of free advice?
But I'd tell you anyway, but this is a nice setting for it.
So like trying to build a YouTube channel, and I'll come across YouTube channels that have done very well, got great success, and they will share content around their story and how they do it, and they're echoing the things you're saying, long-term consistency, milking every opportunity, and like if you make a video, how can you cut that down into little bite-sized snippets for LinkedIn, for Reels, for TikTok? But then I also come across YouTube channels where I think they're consistent. They've been posting for 7 years. 7 years they've been posting, or longer or shorter, but they've got a few hundred videos on their channel. They look good. The thumbnails, they've drawn my attention in. And I look through the videos and I'm like, 20 views, 50 views. How many subscribers they got? 100 subscribers. And I'm like, how has someone been doing this? Because in my head, I think if you want to make content and you want to grow, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, YouTube, a podcast, if you do it for long enough and are consistent enough, and providing that you are entertaining and you come across as authentic, you will grow an audience. Yeah. You will. It's not like if you can, it's you will. But then I'm like, I do come across these channels and I think, how have you not got a big audience? You've been doing this for years. You're consistent.
Can I ask, is it just of them? Do they interview people?
Sure.
If there's one particular person in your mind that you found?
I think one I remember sticking out was kind of like your traditional kind of vlog, but doing tips. I've seen a few where as well it can be someone's doing the same thing as someone famous. Like someone could be a personal coach. They're doing the same thing Joe Wicks is doing. They're entertaining, maybe not as entertaining. No one is quite as entertaining as Joe Wicks, but they're still making great content, great videos. But I'm like, why does no one want to watch?
But are they on their own though?
Yeah,
and are they just giving out their opinion?
I would say
So if they're just recording in this, which isn't a bad thing, but if you're just recording and then you're just uploading and just hoping that the universe comes to you and gives you likes, and that's where you're falling short. So what you're doing is really clever in the sense of collaboration. So after this, you should have a follow-up email or tell me right now and say, Molly, thank you so much. Let's get a picture. Can I share this on your social media? And can you ask your followers if you'd like to be a guest on my podcast? Or you headhunt those people. And then if there's someone who's an influencer who, that you think I'd love to interview you, then get them to share your picture on their social media. Before you know it, everyone in a particular circle, everyone knows who you are. So they go check you out. They're going to then watch your YouTube. And then you're playing up to the strengths of the social media platform. You're saying, please subscribe, please like and comment. Let me know your thoughts below. And then do your research. Find out all of the hacks that are working on YouTube and think about how people do it. But then it's a people game. And the way that people work in business and how people succeed is by knowing people, getting opportunities and making sure that everyone knows who you are. And then they'll check you out because you'll hear a name. The most powerful thing that can happen is you'll be in a session or you'll be meeting someone and they'll go, oh, do you know so-and-so? Oh, I know them. That's how you can do business. That's how you can make relationships. That's how you can get recommendations, all because of that moment. That will always be the way that everyone does business. Even if Georgie goes on Instagram, buys loads of stuff all the time, and you can just be it looks like I'm going off for a second, but you can be a product-based business and give a product that people want and they'll buy. But in a people-to-people, in a service-based or, something you're not physically giving them as a gift, you've got to give yourself and you've got to show people that you're worth their time, worth their energy and worth their investment. And that's by knowing you giving value and you being entertaining and giving people what they want.
You've definitely given me more insight because that's something, literally, as you said, after this conversation, having a follow-up. Because it's always my idea of, like, once I've done the recording and everything, I'm always like, are you happy to share? Are you happy? Well, my favourite thing is that on Instagram, you can collaborate on Reels.
Yes.
Best thing ever. Because then I'm like pushing as many guests as I can to, like, collaborate on Reels and stuff.
Yeah.
And
something you just said there, I'm going to pull you up on it. You said, can you? Don't say, can you? Share this, Molly. Do you mind sharing this? Or just say, would you? I would be more direct. It sounds really silly. I'd almost be like, not can you take a picture? Like, let's take a picture together. Let's do it. But not that you're being forceful or anything like that. But lean the language into making sure that it's actually a thing.
I suppose then it's let's share this together rather than saying can we?
Yeah, don't
let's
give
share
people
this
choice.
together. I'll put the post up and you can collaborate on it, and then your audience can see it.
That's the technique I use with my dad. I say, Dad, can you just quickly hold the baby for a second? Oh, I've just got to quickly nip it. He will always hold the baby. It's just a bad example. but then if I say, Dad, hold the baby, he's holding the baby.
Yeah.
You tell people, they'll do it, and that's a big thing in social media. When we're doing competitions or anything like that, you've got to tell people what you want them to do. Don't ask, because if you ask, you give them choice to say no. Interesting.
In my provincial study of psychology and human behaviour, another huge point is because having a reason let's do this because.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the stats were. I think it greatly increases your chance of success. It was like a psychological study done on just like asking random strangers to hold things, or like asking random strangers for £1
People
or something.
do what they're told.
Yeah, and and it was like asking random strangers for £1, it was like 30% success of people would just be like, oh yeah, there you go. Whereas if you said can I have £1 because I need it for this, it went to like 70% success. Yeah. But that's a complete tangent.
I like tangent.
How in socials then? How do you keep up with the change in algorithm? Because like I'm thinking, here's the things you need to do, here's the things you need to do, but then it will change, and like it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. So like Reels, because even I'm talking about profiles I've seen that haven't grown, and like there's a podcast I kind of have looked at and taken inspiration from, that I've looked at their like Instagram and how well they're doing, and then I'm like, it hasn't really grown a huge amount. And then I go on their posts and stuff, not one single reel. There's videos, there's pictures, and I'm like, reels are like so important right now.
So powerful
Literally,
right now.
On my own page, I've gone from getting 200 views on a video to suddenly I've done a few where they've done like thousands, 10,000 views, and I'm like, reels are amazing.
Yeah, they are. So two things. Number one, you can never really keep up with the algorithm and what it likes, what it doesn't like. You're just going to be sort of fighting the beast constantly. What you're better off doing is looking on your phone and then thinking to yourself, oh, I like that. And whatever you've stopped at, whatever you've watched, and whatever you've interacted with, think, why have I done that? Question your own behaviour. And then secondly, it's when a social media platform releases what I would call a new toy, so you've got your Reels, you might have IGTV, I know IGTV is an old one, but for example, something that's brand new, Instagram is going to favour those who use their toys. So they're going to boost your profile and what you're doing because they want to encourage more people to do it. So you've got to, look at your own behaviours on social media and mimic the success and turn it into your own thing. And secondly, make the most of the things that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn want you to do. You're in a very fortunate position where, again, you haven't got the stress of like the business hanging over you. This is your priority. So you've got that freedom and time to really go for it. That's something that when we're going to get our content creator in, that is like all of our dreams for MollyMoodle Media of like fun videos, information, telling my story about my journey into business, into attending university or stuff like that. We're going to do a whole big push on it. It's just hard at the minute with juggling so many plates, but we'll get there.
Well, you've alluded there. So what is the big vision? What does MollyMoodle Media look like in the future? Has it got a plan 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, especially now that you're a mother? So has that plan changed?
No, it hasn't changed. What I want to do is I love running the agency. I really do. I love working with people, and so it gives you grit and it gives you substance and it gives you, that's where my business experience is. So when I'm talking to people about marketing and what they need to be doing, I understand it from a business perspective, more so if I ever was a consultant with no business. Do you see what I mean by that? If I just jump straight from being, I'll advise you on social media, or worked for an actual company. I think people should work for companies to develop their social media role. However, for me, understanding how to run my own business is a huge factor into understanding how other businesses work and how I can communicate them to build that trust and understand the things they need to implement. So I really enjoy the agency. I love doing that, and I want to get to a point where the team just runs it. So and continue to scale it. I don't want a massive agency, maybe 5, 6 at max members of staff that don't include me. Then from there, I'd love to host events, workshops, trainings. I'd love to talk at events. I'd love to, wherever I can help and really push the boundaries with our own marketing and do some big things. I would love to do that. And with that being a mummy, so it makes no difference. I want to sort of give her a fantastic life and give her loads of experiences. And I almost think to myself, life is about working hard, not at her expense, but it's life's about working hard. And I'm glad that she'll get to see that. I think that I know people who give I love my baby girl so much, but give their kids life on a plate where they've got no grit, they've got no resistance. Do you see what I mean? If they want something, they get it. If they need to, and actually, children, I want her to grow and say, Mum's working really hard. God, it don't look glamorous. This isn't nice, but that's life. I'd like her to see that. But also, I want to be a part of it. Be like, let's go Florida, baby. Mama's playing for it. Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love to out earn. I'll like double. I'd like to be the sole breadwinner and Tom be a stay-at-home dad. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I'd love that. And he'd love that as well. He absolutely loves his job and he's brilliant at it. But I said, if I was to earn you one day, and still have my income and everything like that, I was like, do you like to be a stay-at-home dad? He'd be like, I love it. I just go on a kayak and swim all day with all the kids. And he would. And I would love to be the breadwinner.
Do you think that's the youngest of the siblings in you wanting to be like, I want to be the breadwinner? I've been the youngest one. I grew up in a house where I was the little one with no voice. I want to be the big one that makes the money. And
no, I think it's a woman thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel really sorry for men. Can I be? I feel really sorry for men. I feel, I do massively. I feel like they've got this pressure from the very beginning of their lives to be the man, the breadwinner. They've got to make it work. One day they're going to get married, and their wives are going to have the children. The women look after the babies, and the men go out to work. And I think that even in my own experience, it was very 50-50 with me and Tom. We both brought the money in, we both looked after the baby. But I don't think that my pressures of mum staying at home. I also think he got the pressures of dad go to work. Do you see what I mean? So I feel really sorry that men have to have that pressure of you've got to be able to provide, and maybe to some degree they don't have the option to do what they want. as much, like, not to set gender, but like because at some point they've got to earn good money. And I think even when I was at school, boys were always comparing, oh yeah, I work with my dad and I get paid this and I get paid that, and that's the priority. Although I know a lot of men who have gone into trades and loved it and enjoyed it and stuff, but I do feel this sympathy of having the pressure of running a house. It doesn't work like that. Us girls contribute. We have to work. We have to do our part. Of course, because that's the life I want. But I get it. But I'd love to be the sole earner and be like, you don't have to worry about that. Mumsy's got it.
So you feel sorry for men in that respect. How do you feel towards women?
I feel like everyone's got it rough. I really do.
Everyone's got it rough.
Everyone's got it rough, you know. And I think that, I just feel like the older you get, the harder it gets, you know. Because and it depends on what you want. I feel like I'm 30. And if I wouldn't have had a baby by now, the pressure to have a baby by now would have been immense, and I would have felt left out. And if a woman decides that she don't want baby, it's almost like, why? I think that everyone's got pressure in their own way, and I think that I feel sorry for. I sympathise with women for that pressure to have a baby. I feel pressure for women for feeling like they have to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
More so, you know, men don't really have that pressure to be like, you need a girlfriend now. As much as girls are like, you know, so maybe I'm wrong, but that's, you know, there comes a point where the nesting sort of sets in a bit. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. I suppose for myself personally, I have managed to conveniently be born in a point where couldn't really ask for anything easier. Like, I've been born in a first world country. I'm a white male with no kind of, in terms of like what you would class as normal, like I haven't got anything out of the ordinary to extreme. Like, yeah, there's a few funny features or whatever that I got like mimicked for at school, but like, in terms of
you
I
tell
couldn't
them
really
to
ask.
get lost, all right?
But like, so like trying to grow a presence in something on social, I suppose for me, coming from this side of things, it's like talk about first world problems, but I'm kind of thinking like I tick the boxes of like couldn't ask for it to be any easier. That I feel it makes it harder because I haven't got anything interesting. It's like
But you want grit.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to offend like whatever I mentioned. No. But like, I feel like as a woman, you can be like, I'm a woman doing this, and it feels more empowering. Or if you're black,
but that's sad, isn't it?
If you're disabled, like all these things, it's like you're empowering people, and people are drawn to that because it's so empowering, and it seems it has more sentiment to it. That it feels more emotional. Whereas I'm a straight, normal white guy that lives in a first world country. It's like, piss off! No one cares. Like everyone knows you've got life easy.
No, but I think that you're sort of realising that still exists. Do you see what I mean? You like, you know, I'll have conversation with people now, and they don't get it that racism still exists, and they don't, and it's scary because I think
like, I'd be so unaware of like things. Like I talk to people that are, well, whether they're female or black, as you said, like racism still does exist, and I'm just like, shit, does it? And then like disabilities, and like if you're physically disabled and like need wheelchair access, and in my head I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure everyone's got a ramp and stuff. And it's like, well, no, I've not been in a wheelchair, I don't know. And like, I sort of only became aware of when I became like vegetarian and then trying to sort of steer towards more of a vegan diet and plant-based, is suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, everything's not actually like accessible for everyone, and like you can't always go to a restaurant and get the options you want. Although, to be fair, in 2022 it's a very easy way of living. But I suppose I've experienced it more with people's reactions to it, and like, or if I'm doing a job for someone, like I still have my garden business, and they're like, do you want a cup of tea or something, or they just bring you some biscuits or whatever, and I'm like, well, I can't eat them because they've got gelatin in them or whatever, or they're not vegetarian and that kind of thing, or have you got any alternative milks? And people are like, what are you on about? So yeah, it's
well, the thing is that like, you know, not to, we could go into this subject all day, but it's about language as well, and sometimes even the point of being like, wow, a woman, you, like, and it's a little bit like,
oh my god, that.
But even that's what I mean. Like, because there's me having boobies and you having it makes no difference. I mean, I physically pushed out a child. But that's the only difference that you have. You can't do that. I can.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to do anything that kind of like.
Oh, I see, quite intense. But do you see what I mean? Like, there's no real difference between us. You know, and it's the language, and I think it was. Oh my God, who said it? Morgan Freeman. They said, how do we stop talking about racism? It's just like how do we stop racism? And he says, just stop talking about it. Stop talking about the fact that black man or that, you know, that black woman or that Asian man, it's just a person. Do you see what I mean? But like, that people are still getting judged because of their background, because they're and from a gender point of view, that's why I was scared, because it still does exist that women aren't capable of doing both, and that is it. I am the woman. I have the child. I carry the child. I give birth to the child. I've got to raise the child. Well, no, bloody not. Tom's got a pair of hands. Once she's out, I'm just as much capable of looking after her as Tom is. That's the way of the world now. It's about. I'm not like I'm a proud woman. I'm a person with a baby in a business just as much as a bloke, who's got a baby in business. Do you see what I mean? But we are still, in a point where it's like, a woman, she done it. But I get that. But we're pushing through that, and communities like Digital Women that are saying, listen, we're gonna people get offended by that, by digital women. Like, why is it not digital men? And it's because there's the way that the world has been, where women have been the ones that rear the children and grow up, haven't had careers in digital or opportunities as good as men, and that's why the community was started in the first place. So that's why it's got that name, it's got that voice, even though it's very inclusive and men are involved in stuff. It's things like that give it the platform, that say, well, women are part of it, but we're still got place to go where it's like. And I think I'm there anyway. I've never really been prejudiced about being a woman in business, but there is still that element. Do you see what I mean? But there have been a lot of situations. There have been many situations where things have happened to me. Oh God, that sounds really deep. But like scenarios where someone talks to me in a certain way or acts a certain way, but yet when the bloke then steps in, who's also working on the same project with me, they would never speak to him in that way. So it's stuff like that, really. But we get there, and I love it, and we're moving forward, and and that's why I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't announce straight away that I was pregnant and can do it all. But because I was scared of the stigma. We're going to fight the stigma.
Yeah, exactly. Humanity has loved to create segregation and identify differences, which is great to identify differences, but not in a negative connotation. And ultimately, if aliens were to fly past and arrive in their spaceship, they'd look at us and be like, "You all look the bloody same." Yeah, it's like us looking at tigers, and I can't tell. Well, I suppose if I really looked, but ultimately I'm going to look at a tiger and be like, you all look the same. I'm going to look at zebras and be like, you all look the same. Yeah. And I suppose if we could just embrace that kind of mentality of we're all people.
That's it. That's all it is.
Exactly. I have a closing tradition on this podcast, and that is the question. I'm very excited to hear your answer. What is one thing that exists within the world today that you hope one day will be eradicated?
Global warming. I really do. I really care about it. It really bothers me that the government aren't doing enough about it, that we're not having these global conversations, that we're not being forced to not drive our cars or do certain things. Or bloody, Boris Johnson went to the G20 summit that in a literal private jet, got in his car.
Something like 50 private jets at that event.
It was just ridiculous. Then got in his Range Rover, and I recycle. That if you put a pizza box in that recycling that's got a bit of grease on it, it's not getting recycled. The people can't do enough. It's got to be the governments and stuff. And that sounds, you'd think, oh my God, is that really what you care about? I do. We try and do as much as possible at home to reduce, our carbon footprint in some way. I mean, it's just coincidence that I've been abroad or a holiday in 2019, but I generally would now favour to go on holiday in the UK, so I don't fly as much, and I really care about that. So if I could eradicate global warming, I would. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, it went a bit more punchy. But that is punchy, people. The ice caps are melting. Floods are imminent. So yeah, I really care.
Are you vegetarian or vegan?
I did go veggie for a little while, and but it is really hard when Tom cooks all the dinners. That is honestly a problem, because that my moral compass is skew with, because on one side we use a lot of veggie products where we can, but for our corn, for our minced shepherd's pies and stuff like that, anything mince related, we use corn and stuff. And I like me a salad, but yeah, I could be better.
Okay, amazing. Well, good answer, and that's something I think we should all be conscious of, and that's been a huge driver in my life, especially the environment and just thinking of the climate. But otherwise, thank you so much, Molly. It's been a great experience sitting in this funky room, the studio, which
is now turned into 100 degrees, is it not?
Oh, it's so hot. Yeah, thank you so much. And what can I say other than I always enjoy your posts on LinkedIn and whatever socials, so they're always enjoying to to read because, as you said, like you're sharing your story. It's very personal and personable. Like it's very relatable. So thank you for that. And I'm going to mention your did you win an award or you're finalised for an award?
I am in the top 50 digital women to watch, and I tell you what, hundreds of women, if not thousands, go for it. So I'm in the top 50, yeah. So I am in the top 50 people. Thank you very much. Very happy about that. Really chuffed. I tell you what, and you want to read, if you go on the Digital Women website and you have a look at their listings of the calibre of people that are in that category, to even be mixed in with them is incredible. So thank you for mentioning that. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, I read that and I thought that's astonishing. So top 50, is that as in it's counting down to find the top one, or as in
no, you're just
so a bit like Forbes
group.
30 under 30. Here's the 30.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're like in the top.
I'm in the mix. I'm in the mix.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on. I've been honoured by your presence.
Thank you so much.
There we go. The final episode of Series 2 of Benevolent Business, and it was a wonderful one. Very bizarre in the sound booth in that room studio. Really cool. My first experience in something like that. While visually it's not as stimulating, it's quite dark. Like especially compared to the penultimate episode with Keith, where we're out in the open, in touch with nature. You got like a bit of bird singing in the background, students walking past with all kinds of interactions to give us. And yet in this experience with Molly, it's the complete opposite of that. Complete silence, dark, or a very, shady, dark room. Not the best lighting, but it was still a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful conversation, and hopefully one that will happen again and again for me with Molly. But I hope you got a lot of value from it. Of course you did. I know you did. So let me know in the comments below or on a review if you're on Apple Podcasts. Let me know what you think. It would be wonderful from hear from you, especially if you've been listening to all the episodes. If you've just come across this episode, does this episode make you want to listen to other episodes? Let me know. It'd be wonderful to hear from you. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful whatever. I'm literally on my way off to Berlin on a holiday. Despite being the most stressful time of my life, I'm going to go have a great holiday. So you have a great day, whatever you're doing. I'm off to Berlin. Bye.